Wow. Wow, this is how good the DJI Focus Pro is focusing on me right now, even though I'm using a very shallow lens and even though the LiDAR is mounted on the top right of my cage. We're here in Bali's biggest market. You can't see it right now, but it's somewhere down there. We're just above it all right now to test out the DJI Focus Pro. I've been using this guy for the past month and I've been using it through passion and client projects. And today I want to test it out the way I would usually use this setup. On a beautiful morning, not really because it's raining, but capturing street life in Bali. So let's walk downstairs and test this guy out. I was actually very annoyed the way DJI decided to release this thing. It was pretty much not available, just available for a pre-order with not really a date where we're gonna get this thing. But I was lucky enough to have a friend who went to Japan and got this guy for me. And now I have it for about a month, as I said before. And I've been testing it out on client and also passion projects. And I want to cover something that I actually haven't heard before on YouTube and why I think this is such a game-changing gear for anyone who shoots with cine or manual lenses in general. If you've been following this channel for a while, by now you probably know that I'm a sucker for vintage and cine lenses. And to be honest, I actually find myself shooting on manual lenses, I would say 98% of the times. And sure, focusing by hand, it's quite easy, and it gets easier the longer you do it. But there are still some shots that are very hard to nail, or simply you're just shooting on a gimbal. And this is the time that we need a solution. A solution that I thought I had when the PD Movie LiDAR system came out, and I got it, I tried it, and I was very disappointed by it. The lack of options, the lack of software, the lack of screen, the only 5-meter distance, all of these things together just didn't make it worth it. And sure, you can still focus by hand with it, but then it just, it takes away the whole experience and I just couldn't trust it. So when the DJI Focus Pro came out, I knew this was it. The screen, the 20-meter focusing distance, the handle, so many things that actually make sense. I knew this was it, and so far, it did not disappoint. There's a few workarounds that you need to be doing. For example, this is what my rig looks like right now, and it's not near as perfect. See, the problem is that DJI gives you this mount, which is a hot shoe mount, but most of us that are using this DJI Focus Pro will be using a monitor and probably a top handle on top as well, which means it's very limited the place we can put this. I currently have a small rig cage on my Sony a7S III and I can put the LiDAR straight up on the top right. And I found that as long as the LiDAR is calibrated perfectly with each lens and you made sure that the distance from the sensor to the LiDAR front, it's perfect, this works pretty good because this area is what covers the most, in my opinion, on the list. Obviously the best would be having it right on top of the lens, but yeah, we just don't have that possibility. But I'm actually in the process of getting a 3D printed attachment that I can go underneath the LiDAR and I can slide it through the hot shoe on the side of my top handle, which works pretty well. Otherwise, another option would be to buy Condor's Blue Cine cage for it, but I think that's just a little bit overpriced in my opinion, $200 or something for just a piece of metal. So it's probably a better choice, just get something 3D printed in very hard plastic. So this is what my rig looks like right now. To be honest, it could look a little bit overkill and complicated, but everything have a reason. And to be honest, shooting with this iron glass Soviet set, right now I got the 85mm on the Jupiter 9, this lens is incredible. And when shooting at an aperture like f3 or f4, some apertures like that are not too shallow, the LiDAR works great. Yeah, you heard that right. I'm never really shooting at f2 or f1.5 or f2.8 anymore because I just want the subject to be connected, so I don't need to be shooting super shallow all the time. Usually f4, f3.5 is what I like to shoot on, and with these lenses, it looks beautiful. One more thing that I wish DJI would have done, but probably will come in the future versions, it's the fact that the cables become kind of messy. And you know, look at this, with a monitor cable and with all of the LiDAR cables, this whole setup, it's a bit too messy for my liking. Well, this is what we got. This is what we're gonna play with. I said it before, and it's also in the title of this YouTube video. This is much more than just LiDAR autofocus. For example, you can link your camera via Bluetooth so that you can record using the rec button here, which means that I can hold my camera like this, and I have a lot less pressure on my wrists for long working days, for example. So whenever I'm out shooting, I'm usually shooting like this. I'm recording through this. It's more stable and it doesn't hurt my wrist as much. This is also another reason why I love this rig. It's not perfect. Honestly, it's the first of its kind, so I find that to be very normal. It's, you know, the screen is very intuitive, it's easy to use, it tracks subjects and objects very well, but I have no expectation for this to be exactly what I needed. But that's kind of why I like it. And talking about downside, there are a few downsides, like, you know, sometimes hands focus a little bit too much, or sometimes it just doesn't recognize subjects or it loses subjects while you're shooting, but that's normal. As I said before, it's the first of its kind. So this is the expectation that you need to have when buying the DJI Focus Pro. And probably the biggest downside for me, it's definitely the battery life. I wish it would come with 2 batteries, or at least have an option to buy with 2 batteries, because as I said before, it's kind of still sold out in most places, at least in Asia. And I can't find any other handle battery, which is a bit annoying because the battery doesn't last that long. Just to put in comparison, it lasts about the same time as the Sony a7S III battery when shooting, which is, I guess, a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours of shooting, which is near as long as enough as I would need it to. And honestly, yes, it fast charges very well, but there is a few tricks that you can do with that, and I never ran out of battery so far because I didn't have super long shoots. But it can happen that you run out of battery, so definitely keep that in mind. And every time you're not using it, just click the power button so the system goes in sleep and it doesn't use any battery. One thing to remember, when you put it on sleep, the LiDAR takes a few seconds to go back into life and get the screen back, so you do have to remember that. But the second you turn it back on, you can still control focus with the wheel in the back of the handle, so that's pretty handy. So at the end of the day, is the DJI Focus Pro worth it? 100%, only if you know what you're getting into it. To be honest, with many shoots that I had lately where I used it, a lot of the time I still use the wheel in the back to manual focus because things are moving too fast, or simply I want to focus on something specific. And I love the fact that with one click, you can simply switch to manual focus, and one click, you can quickly go into autofocus. And personally, I like to keep it on EMF, which is autofocus, but you can kind of helping drag the focus with the back wheel if it's doing something wrong, which is something very useful, honestly. And then one switch to manual focus and you're good to go if you want to focus on something specific, or if you want to control focus yourself. It's a great handle, it's a great tool, and it makes my life so much easier. So if you know what you're getting into it, this whole system, it's impeccable for now at least.